My husband's family openly rejects me, favors his ex over me, and tried to sabotage our marriage. After years of trying to reconnect, I'm forced to choose between my mental health and a family that will never accept me. I, 29 female, have been with my now husband, 31 male, for 4.5 years. When we first started dating, I thought his family genuinely cared for me. His parents welcomed me into their home, asked me questions about my life, and seemed genuinely interested in getting to know me. But from the very beginning, his younger brother made it clear that he didn't like me, and in hindsight, I think that set the tone for everything that followed. He was still very close with my husband's ex-girlfriend and seemed determined to sabotage our relationship from day one. He would bring her around secretly, try to arrange accidental meetups between her and my then-boyfriend, and post photos of himself with her online, calling her his sister in captions. It was obvious he wanted his brother to get back with her, and that I was in the way of whatever fantasy he had about keeping her as part of his life. I tried everything imaginable to build a bridge with him. I invited him out to dinners, asked about his work, tried to find common ground in hobbies and interests. I thought if I just stayed patient, eventually he'd realize I wasn't his enemy, that I loved his brother and wasn't going anywhere. But nothing worked. Every effort I made was ignored or twisted into another reason for him to resent me. Eventually, I had to accept the truth. He didn't want a relationship with me and maybe never would. Things took a darker turn one night when my sister went out to a bar. My family and I aren't from this town. It's small and word travels fast, so it didn't take long for everyone to get to know each other. That night, my husband's brother ran into my younger sister, and instead of just being polite, he tried to hit on her. He made advances toward her, trying to entice her into sleeping with him. When she pushed back, he turned it into a disgusting bet, saying that my relationship with his brother wouldn't last anyway, so there would be nothing wrong with them hooking up. Thankfully, my sister shut him down immediately. She told him no, and reminded him that she and I were close, that she already considered my relationship with his brother serious, and that it would be like sleeping with family. She came straight to me afterward and told me everything. I was shocked and disgusted, but not surprised. It just confirmed what I had already felt, that his brother would do anything to undermine me and my relationship. The irony of it all is that his ex-girlfriend, the one his brother kept trying to bring around, had made several attempts to worm her way back into my husband's life too. But he made it very clear that he wasn't interested. He blocked her, ignored mutual friends who tried to reach out on her behalf, and even told one of them flat out that he had moved on and was happy with me. His actions reassured me that no matter what his brother or anyone else wanted, he and I were solid. At one point, I even spoke with his mother about the ex-girlfriend's behavior. She told me the girl was just jealous, that she couldn't move on after their breakup, and that she was acting out of bitterness because she saw how strong my relationship with her son had become. At the time, it felt like his mother was on my side, like she saw the truth of what was happening. But then everything changed after my husband proposed. We had been together for about 2.5 years when he asked me to marry him. I was over the moon, and we started planning the wedding right away. We didn't want a long engagement, so we set a date for 6 months later. That's when his parents, who had always seemed supportive, suddenly turned cold. Previously, I had always been the one to care for my in-laws' home whenever they went on vacation. It had become an unspoken tradition, something I took pride in because it made me feel trusted, included, and valued in the family. They had never once asked anyone else. It was always me. But when I was going through a cancer scare, my life was suddenly filled with doctor visits, hospital waiting rooms, and endless tests. I was exhausted and terrified just trying to get through each day, and I wasn't as available as I normally was. By the grace of God, I came home with a clean bill of health. I felt like I had been given my life back, and I was excited to return to some sense of normalcy. That's when I learned my in-laws were planning a big anniversary trip. Naturally, my first thought was whether they would need me to care for the house, but when I heard nothing from them, I assumed maybe another family member had stepped in. It stung a little. They knew how much I had always done for them, but I told myself not to read into it. The night before their trip, my husband and I went to their house to say goodbye and wish them well. Everything seemed fine at first. They were cheerful, excited, and as we were leaving they casually said we could stop by at any time while they were gone, just to check in on things. That's when I asked, almost offhandedly, who was officially watching the home. Their answer hit me like a punch in the stomach. They had asked my husband's ex-girlfriend. I couldn't even process it at first. I thought maybe I had misheard them. But no, they were dead serious. They told me the idea had come from his younger brother, of course it had, And instead of ever talking to me or my husband about it, they simply went ahead with the decision. They admitted they hadn't wanted us to know until the night before they left. I held myself together until we got home, but as soon as I walked through the door, I broke down crying. The betrayal I felt was overwhelming. Not only had they chosen her, the very woman who had tried, multiple times, to worm her way back into my husband's life, but they hadn't even given us the respect of a conversation. It wasn't just inconsiderate. It felt deliberate. My husband was furious. He reached out to them right away and told them point-blank that what they had done was disrespectful to both him and to me. He reminded them of how recent her attempts had been to contact him, to try to rekindle something, and how inappropriate it was to invite her back into their lives in this way. But they brushed him off. They told him the decision had already been made, and there was nothing they could do about it now. After I had calmed down a little, I decided to call my soon-to-be mother-in-law directly. Up until that point, I had believed we had a strong relationship. I thought she cared about me, that she respected me, that she saw me as part of their family. So I called her, hoping for some kind of explanation that would ease the sting. Instead, what I got was dismissiveness. When I asked why they had chosen her, of all people, she grew annoyed almost immediately. Her tone shifted like she couldn't believe I was even bringing it up. She told me I shouldn't worry about it, that it wasn't like they were going to be spending time with her, that she was just watching the house. As if that somehow made it better. As if the symbolism of letting her back into their lives, and into their home, no less, meant nothing. What she didn't understand was that it wasn't just about the house. It was about loyalty. It was about respect. It was about the message they were sending me and their own son by choosing her over me. And I wasn't the only one who felt that way. Some of my husband's other family members heard about what had happened, and they were upset too. They told his parents directly that their decision was inconsiderate and unfair to both me and my husband. But even with that pushback, his parents stood their ground. They told everyone it was their house, their trip, and their decision who would care for it. Not long after the argument about my in-laws asking my husband's ex to watch their house, I got a call from his grandmother. She had heard that we were upset about the decision, and she wanted to reach out. She told me she had already voiced her own disapproval before they ever asked the ex, but my in-laws brushed her off too. She said they told her point-blank that it was their house and they would make the rules for it, no matter how it made us or anyone else feel. That conversation stayed with me. On one hand, it made me feel validated. If even his grandmother, a woman they respected and had always listened to, thought they were in the wrong, then maybe I wasn't being overly sensitive or childish like they accused me of being. On the other hand, it stung even more to realize that they had been warned how hurtful this decision would be, and they went through with it anyway. They didn't just act without thinking, they acted in spite of knowing exactly how much damage it would cause. It was incredibly painful, but I made a conscious decision to try and let the situation go. At the time, my husband and I had begun talking seriously about starting a family, and I didn't want this wedge between me and his parents to bleed into the next chapter of our lives. I wanted my future child to grow up surrounded by family, and I wanted my husband to have peace knowing his parents were included in our lives. I told myself that the best thing I could do was to forgive and move forward, even if they never apologized. But instead of things getting better, they seemed to get worse. It felt as though, once I spoke up and made it clear that I was hurt, they made me their target. They started making cutting remarks toward me, little digs about how I wasn't smart enough, comments that painted me as immature or naive. They told people in town, even the parents of my own friends, that I had been acting foolish by being upset with them. They painted me as dramatic, childish, and overly emotional, all because I had dared to voice that their decision hurt me and disrespected my marriage. One of my closest friend's dads, who happened to be very close with my father-in-law, eventually pulled him aside. He told him directly that what they did was wrong. He said that, at the very least, they should have discussed the decision with us first, considering my husband and I are permanent members of their family now. He reminded them that relationships are built on love, respect, and consideration, and that if they wanted a strong family bond, they needed to treat us with care. But even after that conversation, nothing changed. They didn't apologize. They didn't acknowledge the pain they caused. If anything, their coldness deepened. It was as though my speaking up had permanently shifted the way they saw me, from someone who quietly took on responsibilities and showed up for them, to someone they viewed as a problem. Now, here we are more than a year and a half later. I've tried everything I can think of to mend the relationship. I've bitten my tongue. I've swallowed my pride. I've made an effort to show up at family gatherings with a smile on my face, even when I felt like an outsider in my own husband's family. I've told myself over and over again that I need to let it go, for the sake of my husband and for the sake of the child we want to bring into the world. This hurts me in ways I didn't even think were possible. I've tried to put words to my pain, to explain it to my husband, to cry it out late at night, but it never feels like enough. The truth is, no matter how hard I try to build a bridge to his family, they keep meeting me with coldness, silence, and distance. It's like I'm walking into a storm every time I try to reach for them. Every gesture of kindness is swallowed whole. Every attempt at connection is brushed aside. After a few crippling anxiety attacks brought on by all of this, my husband finally sat me down and admitted something I think he had been trying to protect me from. He confessed that his parents never wanted him to marry me in the first place. He said they had made negative comments about me behind my back before our engagement, even before our wedding. They didn't think I was worthy of him. To them, my family background wasn't wealthy enough, my career or education wasn't impressive enough, and I wasn't the respectable community figure they imagined their son should marry. That truth cut deep, but it was made even worse by the fact that they haven't just been unkind to me, they've been cruel to him too. They've punished him for daring to love me, for choosing me over the expectations they had for him. It breaks my heart to watch him be mistreated simply because he didn't obey their unspoken rules. And while they've been clear about their disapproval, what lingers in the air, unspoken but heavy, is race. I am black, and they are white. Friends whose parents are close with my in-laws have admitted to me that they believe this plays a huge role in why I haven't been accepted. And if I'm honest, I feel it too. It's in the way they look through me, the way they treat me as an outsider, the way they elevate anyone else, even his ex, above me. I don't want to believe that's the root of it, but it's hard not to see the pattern when so many others around us notice the same thing. And then there's the ex-girlfriend. Recently, I've had to watch them openly rebuild their relationship with her. My father-in-law leaves supportive comments on her photos. My mother-in-law likes nearly everything she posts. Meanwhile, they've never once shown me that same acknowledgement or warmth. They've stayed silent on my husband's and my posts, ignored our wedding photos even when I tag them in the very ones they appear in. It feels deliberate, like their silence is a message. I have every reason to believe they've asked her again to watch their home while they go on a trip for their nephew's birthday. And she's not innocent in all of this either. She seems to relish the role she's playing. I've heard from people at church and in the community that she's been spreading stories about me, that I supposedly didn't want her looking after their home, that I've been trying to create division. She's painting me as jealous, controlling, and petty. It's humiliating, and the fact that my in-laws let her spread these lies unchecked only confirms how little respect they have for me. The weight of this has been unbearable at times. I am a family-oriented person at heart. I always pictured my marriage bringing new bonds, new parents, a bigger family to love and be loved by. Instead, I feel like I've been pushed out of a family I was never really allowed into. I've tried everything, being patient, forgiving, showing up, smiling when I wanted to cry, but nothing has changed. The truth I'm coming to accept is that I cannot force them to embrace me. I cannot beg my way into their good graces, and I cannot keep subjecting myself and my husband to interactions that leave us both scarred. Every encounter is tense, laced with unkindness, draining us mentally and emotionally. So now I'm standing at a painful crossroads. As much as it hurts, I believe the healthiest thing we can do for our marriage is to limit our time with them. To stop trying so hard to win over people who have made it abundantly clear they don't want to be won. To put our energy into protecting each other, into creating the family and life we want, instead of chasing acceptance from people who refuse to give it. That realization devastates me because I wanted something different. I wanted a warm relationship with my in-laws. I wanted them to be present in our lives and in the lives of the children we hope to have someday. But wanting it doesn't make it possible. What I can do now is grieve the family I'll never have with them and hold on tightly to the love and respect I do have with my husband. Because at the end of the day, that's the family that truly matters.